And welcome to the Magna Carta Sports Network. I'm your host, Wes. Looking to start a new weekly trend here where we're going to be talking just about possible trades. Um, Ideally, this will be posted on Tuesdays, so something we can expect weekly. Um, yeah, if you're new to the podcast, again, we talk sports here. We normally have a weekly NFL recap. We do weekly updates in terms of NBA games and how things are going. So if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to add you overall to our family here at the Carter Network. Without further ado, we'll go into our topic today. And that topic is it time for the Lakers to trade Anthony Davis? Anthony Davis has been a good player. He's known for the fact that he is part of the sports agency that LeBron and Maverick Carter own. So a few years ago, he was on the New Orleans Pelicans, and him and LeBron kind of forced their way for Anthony Davis to join the Lakers. Anthony Davis was at the peak of his powers during that time period. He was playing great basketball in that 2018 season, doing some wonderful things. And Lakers ended up trading a pretty large haul that now kind of looks interesting considering how well some of those players turned out. You have Brandon Ingram that was in that trade. You have Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, and a number of other draft picks that are turning into the real players now. When you look at the New Orleans Pelicans roster and how their overall depth is just being added to daily. So as we're looking here now, the Lakers ended up getting Anthony Davis. They rounded up their roster pretty well with ancillary pieces, KCP, Kyle Kuzma. They ended up keeping him, Alex Caruso, a number of these guys, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, and they really had a physical aspect to their team. They were number one in defense, I think, for 2 years in a row. Anthony Davis was playing that four position, backed up by either JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard. And they caused a lot of issues for a lot of different defenses. They walled off the paint. They had 6'10" Kuzma on the wings. They had KCP, who was hounding most ball handlers. Caruso, who was another great defender. They had overall just a solid team. They had um, uh, Rondo, who came off the bench, did a great job for them as well. So overall, it's a good team. They brought in the following year. They brought in Dennis Schroeder, who overall seems like he's a better first guard off the bench than he is a starter. But he did have a pretty decent year and had the opportunity to extend. A lot of speculation that they offered him a 4-year, $84 million contract, and he turned it down, hoping for something more, and kind of never really turned into anything more than that. But we're here now, and we're just looking over the Lakers in their current state. Right now, LeBron is in his 20th season and will be looking to get that scoring title sometime at some point this year. Um, you have Anthony Davis, who's still having a decent season. He's averaging right now. It looks like he's averaging 24 points a game with 9.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2.8 steals, and averaging about 35 minutes a game. So overall, things look good on the outside, but as we all know, the Lakers right now are 0-5 and kind of running into a rough patch. So that their games don't really ease up for another few weeks, and it's not unheard of for them to start the season possibly, um, you know, 3-10, 4-12, or something like that. So right now, as things are looking, Anthony Davis is missing another game due to rest or due to possible injury. He was injured again in the preseason. The question now becomes, what is the best interest of the Lakers? The Lakers made a trade for Russell Westbrook about 2 years ago, a year and a half, 18 months ago, and things have just been downhill ever since. They ended up giving up multiple rotation players for a guy who really can't blend well with AD and LeBron. There was a lot of talk and back and forth about the Lakers shipping off two unprotected picks to Indiana for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. And it looks like, Miles Turner and the team are kind of waiting hopefully for something to happen here. But overall, we're still waiting to see. With the team being this bad, it's going to be even if they make that trade now, it's still going to be a bit of a process of getting all those players acclimated, getting people used to playing with each other, and overall reshuffling the roster. I think what the Lakers are hoping right now is that they wait long enough, somehow kind of stay afloat, and then they can end up turning one pick in Russell Westbrook into Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and then taking that other pick and then possibly getting Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier for another unprotected pick, and then having a pretty decent roster at that point. But as things get worse, and they were hoping that they would be able to remain around 500 to kind of have a chance to add things in the later half of the season before the trade deadline. But right now, it's looking like there's not a lot of hope that is coming out of the Lakers overall team. Body language is bad. People are pointing fingers like crazy. So you're at this point right now where it's the those at the brain trust are kind of deciding, do we give up our future for possibly just making the 7th seed, or do we go into full rebuild mode, leave LeBron here, let him continue to bringing spectators, but also start planning for the future as you realize that your championship window has officially closed. So that's what today's topic is about, right? So it's going over some of the stats, and it's pretty clear and obvious here. It looks like Anthony Davis, just based upon stats, has peaked back in the 2018 season. Everything about him looks like during that time period, he was averaging 28.1 points a game. He was averaging 11.1 rebounds a game, a good amount of assists. He was shooting almost 83% from the field. Free throw attempts were 8 per game, shooting about 34% from the 3-point line. Um, Field goal percentage, overall, just every statistic that you can think of shows that he peaked in that 2018 year, and that was an unbelievable year where many people were saying he was better than Giannis, who was the best player. It's obvious that Anthony Davis is top 5 player at that point. But since then, it has been a kind of a steep downhill, considering. So it looks like he's been in the league for a few years, but normally at this time is when people are normally starting to peak. You look at Giannis, and Giannis' career is kind of entering that prime years where he has like a 4 or 5 year window of where he could really make a mark on his legacy in terms of NBA history. But everything we're seeing about Anthony Davis right now is saying that he is kind of a declining asset. And when have a declining asset, you want to do your best to get off of it as quick as possible, rather than holding on to it too long and then everyone else realizing that it's no longer a something that they would give up significant assets for. So with that, my thought process was who could the Lakers possibly trade Anthony Davis for that another team would be willing to give up players for to add to their roster that would both help that team and give the Lakers maybe a little bit of something that they could begin that rebuild process. I looked around, and shocking, a lot of teams have done a great job of kind of rounding out their roster, and there aren't too many opportunities where the first thing about it is, as a Laker fan and kind of as a Laker brain trust, you don't want to send Anthony Davis to a Western Conference team, say the Mavericks or Golden State or someone else that he would possibly face. He gets a little bit energized, and then you have to see him again for another 5 years where he's dominating your team. So the first thought would be that there would only likely be teams in the Eastern Conference that you'd be willing to trade him to. So looking at those teams in the Eastern Conference, you're like, who would be willing to take something like that on? The Lakers likely have no interest in a 1-for-1 swap with Kyrie Irving. So you're looking at the Celtics, they're probably not willing to give up anything. The Bucks most likely don't have anything of interest that the Lakers would want. The Heat possibly, but it'd be a pretty difficult because Pat Riley and that team is pretty fierce when it comes to trades, and they're looking to win as often as possible. So I only came up with 2 teams that would possibly be interested, and the overall returns wouldn't be great. So it'd be something, but So my thought process was trading Anthony Davis either to the Sixers or to Chicago Bulls. The Bulls one makes a little bit more sense. Anthony Davis is from Chicago. You have decent players um, in Patrick Williams, who's a 6'8" power forward. He's still young. He's about 23 years old. He can help with defense on the wings and things like that. And then you have their point guard on the team as well. His name slips me right now, but another young guy on their team that can come back in a trade. So that team would have Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Anthony Davis, Sasha Vucevic, and then the Lakers would end up taking back Patrick Williams, and then that would be sorry about this. That'd be Kobe White. So that's not inspiring too many trades or too many good things. Take bringing back Patrick Williams and Kobe White, but the overall player that Patrick Williams could be is something that could spark interest in the future. But again, if you watch the game so far this year, how many of you really believe that Anthony Davis is going to play 80 games this year or 75 games? Things go bad, there's going to be a lot of rest, and it's going to be decided that's in their best interest, and then that's another year kind of going from his prime. So it's kind of just looking at what is the best interest right now. The Sixers also have an opportunity to get in on this if they were interested. They could do a Harris and Thibault for Anthony Davis. Harris currently shooting, I think, about 40% from three catch and shoot, which would add a bit considering Anthony Davis is currently shooting from the 3-point line. He is shooting 18%. That would be a big upgrade. So, with overall team, I think, the Sixers are in need of a shakeup. The Lakers also in need of a shakeup. Adding some shooting, finding some kind of big, whether it's Damian Jones or whatever, but just being in a position where they're able to start this process, because it's obvious right now that the Lakers aren't anywhere. LeBron, for the most part, he's still a good player. He's not in Luka's stratosphere right now. Luka's in his own category of top 5 players, able to bring it consistently. And Anthony Davis at this point right now is probably closer to the 20th best player than he is the top 5. So it's just overall just not a good scenario right now. So just looking to reshape your roster, get some new players in, and see what's in the best interest. Again, if you have any better trades, anything you can consider, please bring it in advance. But the issue that I'm looking at is that teams like Charlotte, possibly Atlanta would be considered an option. But many of these places, if you trade Anthony Davis and he goes from LA to Charlotte, if he goes from LA to Toronto, will he be interested? Some players are going to play no matter what, but other guys are kind of living that star lifestyle where if you trade them somewhere, they'll just pack it up for the season. So considering all of these things, and also you can't particularly trade them in the Western Conference. There are a very limited amount of options that I really thought that were possibly available. But we'll see what happens with the Lakers. This could turn into a real dumpster fire pretty quickly, and we see what happens. But it'll be interesting to watch. I'm sure I'll touch base on this once again and see what the Lakers do in time to come. So thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be looking at you with the next podcast here to come shortly. Have a good day.